Welcome to Waiting on the Trade, a comics book club for people who can't keep up with monthly comics. I'm Matt Ledger.
I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck.
And I'm Tyler Marifke.
This month, we're talking about Original Sin, the 2014 Marvel Comics event in which our hero's deepest, darkest secrets apparently came to light, though there is no evidence of it in this comic. The meat of this story was written by Jason Aaron, illustrated by Mike Deodato Jr. and Frank Martin, and lettered by Chris Eliopoulos. So in case you need a refresher, Original Sin is a cosmic murder mystery in which Nick Fury, the Avengers, and other Marvel heroes, many other Marvel heroes as Pat will talk about, investigate the Watcher's shocking death. However, the whodunit quickly turns into a why did they do it, when the murderer's identity and secret history comes to light. And that's what Original Sin is about.
So satisfying, let me just tell you right now.
Oh, hey, that's my question.
Oh, hey!
Yeah.
But wait, Tyler, it's been a year, so says you, which I still can't believe.
Yeah, it is kind of bonkers, right? Like, it feels like it was very recently.
Not a year ago, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, and it kind of shocked me, too, when I saw that memory pop up on the old Faceplace, and I was like, holy cow, has it been that long since I talked about comic book nonsense with you fellas?
Like in this weird state of time where it feels like everything stretches from being like a day into a week into a month into years, right? Like it feels like the last 2 years have been 5 years.
It's 2020 still. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, yeah, we were talking at work about is this 2020 version 2 or whatever apparently is the meme going around.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. The sequel kind of thing.
Take that right off my podcast. Get it out of here.
8 more years, guys. It's going to be fine.
Yeah,
it feels like it was very recently that we talked about Jason Aaron bullshit, and yet it was exactly a year ago.
Yeah, I felt like some presence in the universe that said, you know who hasn't been talked about much lately? The Orb and Jason Aaron. So we need to talk about those things.
So much Orb in this. I was so shocked. He's such a huge character in this story.
Well, we had joked about it when we did the Ghost Rider podcast that Jason Aaron loves him some Orb. And we said, yeah, maybe someday we'll do Original Sin. And here we are.
Here we are.
I'm sort of convinced that Jason Aaron wrote this just to give the Orb like a power bump at the end. I think that's the whole reason why this exists, you guys.
So I read a really cute bit in one of the interviews that Jason Aaron and I think editor Tom Brevoort did like as like a post-game interview for each issue they did with Comic Book Resources. And Brevoort was like, it really amuses me that the Orb could wear glasses now, but he'd have to wear them like vertically. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, monocle is no longer the only option, so
yeah.
You know, there is that. I don't disagree. I mean, the Orb gets introduced in this comic in the best way ever. Z-list supervillain.
His head, his eyeball is just covered by a sheet for like
with a single tiny hole in it. Yeah.
And you know, nobody actually knows like who the Orb is when this came out, other than avid Ghost Rider readers. So when it was revealed, I was geeking out. But like you know the average person way back when this came out and they were going to the comic shop weekly, when this is who they're going with. This is if the chick wearing the bondage gear shooting bullets wasn't enough.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Now we're gonna go with Orb. Okay, that explains the free bouncy balls that they gave away.
It's a story about eyeballs. Of course, the Orb would be centered to it. Come on.
So apparently, not even Jason Aaron's idea. By the way, Brevoort was like, "Yeah, I was the one who wanted to orbit it, but I don't think anyone will ever believe me on that."
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. I don't believe it. Let's go on record saying that is BS. And we know it was
just
Jason
for you.
Aaron.
I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put a link to that interview in there.
Thank you.
We can have show notes again.
Good. Just for that. Only for that, if anything.
I wasn't sure actually, like looking at the list of questions before we started, which question we were going to do first, because I was like, okay, I don't really know. Like none of them presents to me as like the obvious best lead-in question, but I think we're going with mine, guys. Because I think we've started picking at it already, I feel like, in the way I've been thinking about it.
It's a little flaky, so you know.
Yeah, it's scabby.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I think we'll go with yours.
so my question is, was this a satisfying story?
How are we defining satisfaction?
You tell me, my friend. This one is open to your interpretation.
Okay.
Because I'm of two minds about it, like I said in our text message thread. Like, I both think yes and no.
How very like you, Matthew.
I have a definitive, well, not a definitive. I have a way I'm leaning of those two options.
Okay,
But I
good.
want to let you guys talk a little bit first, I think.
Well, I'm like Matt. I kind of have two feelings about it as well. Um, I think from a business side of it, right? From what Marvel wanted to do with this was just before like the big relaunch, the all new, the new, all new, shiny new Marvel stuff that kept happening where every other week there was a new number one.
The funny part of that sentence is like you were only off by about two news, I
Yeah,
think.
I think I forget which one it was, whether it was new and improved or if it was, the brand spanking new. I couldn't
There's
remember which
Marvel
Marvel.
Now, all new
That's,
Marvel Now, all new, all different Marvel Now. I think those are all real things. That again,
yeah.
we'll show notes. This one's gonna have show notes, I
Were they
guess.
just making? Was that just a joke to them, or was that a serious?
Okay, Pat, here we go. In 2011, DC did this thing called the New 52.
I know of it. Yes.
Yes.
I've heard.
Okay. They advertised on TV. They like started every single series from number one, and they like they kind of rebooted continuity, except Batman and Green Lantern because those were really popular at the time,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
the creators were in the middle of the stories. So that went really well for them. So then Marvel did a like Marvel version because Marvel never actually like does a reboot. They like just start with new number ones and kind of like make jumping on points. And then DC did another wave of it, and then Marvel did like they just kept doing it until everyone was pretty much exhausted of it. Because it turns out when you find something that works, you just beat it into the ground in big two superhero comics.
I feel like you keep slapping new at the beginning of it. It feels
It's not
like
new
a
anymore,
joke.
yeah.
Well, it
Yes.
feels like they're just like
Well, that was the thing, right? Like Tyler is not the first person to have made the all newer, different, blah 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 joke. Like it's a thing that like people still kind of just poke fun at Marvel at for.
And deservedly so, because it really did go off the rails there for a little while.
Oh yeah, they were doing it just with like the same creative team and a new number one. Just
Yeah.
for like, I think Jason Aaron's Thor run I was reading the other day had 7 number one issues.
Something like that.
The same writer, the whole run.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's stupid.
It is, and this was kind of like the step off point for that. When this, I used to go to a comic shop called Comic Alley in Lake Geneva. Shameless plug.
Yep.
We would go there, or I would go there, and this would come out, and I'd buy it every week or whatever, or every month. And this was then it announced, okay, so Sam Wilson's going to take over as Captain America, and then there's going to be a female Thor, and then Iron Man is now superior, and it was like all these different heroes they were trying to launch, and this was like part of it, and this is the big stepping point. And that backfired like really hardcore. You saw some that took off. I mean, Jane Foster's Thor was actually pretty badass, and some of the other ones that came of it still have some holding power. But for the most part, I think from a business standpoint, this didn't drum up the interest in Marvel Comics that Marvel wanted to see, like the New 52 did.
No, but I mean, it's like they also never did the same thing too, which is DC really wanted to make a like the thing that people always say about superhero comics, especially, is like there's no clean starting point for people to get in, right? And like whether you agree with what they did or not, like DC did like say, hey, here's a clean starting point for where you can get into superhero comics. This universe has
Sure.
not existed before. Pick up this number one. Whereas the first issue of Jane Foster Thor, like, is still year 4 of Jason Aaron's Thor comics.
Right. But I feel like this was, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way, but when the original Sin ended, it gave reasons for different story plots to happen. Like, it was a reason for Thor to no longer be Thor.
Yeah.
There was a reason for the Hulk and Tony Stark to fight, and there was a reason for Bucky to no longer be Captain America or be around. And it set up that new universe without doing that major clean slate swipe that DC did.
Yeah, and that's part of why I would say, like, my inklings for saying no, it's not a satisfying story is it feels like it's just moving chess pieces to move chess pieces in a lot of different ways. And a lot of those chess pieces don't even get moved in this story. Like, in the intro I said our hero's deepest, darkest secrets apparently come to light. We don't see any of them in this story. Like, we're told that the heroes all see shocking secrets, and like we're kind of hinted that like the Hulk and Iron Man are mad at each other, but like we don't see literally any of the secrets. And that's wild to me that you like that they like it's a comic book. You could have even just done like one big 2-page splash with like showing a panel and then like an editor's note that's like, "Hey, want to see more of these? Like there are spin-off series." There's nothing.
I think you can assume that there are going to be spin-off series. I don't think it's necessary to have.
Well, sure, but like
I think it would have taken me out of the story if they were like, if you want to find out more, please tune in for issue. That would be.
So I get
lame.
that, and maybe I'm not like explaining my point super well. The point to me is that I was told this big event that like shook our heroes to their core happened in the story, and it was supposed to impact this story, and it did not. It had no effect on this story at all. Like it says, the orb, the man who changed the world, and like. No, he didn't. Nothing happened. The heroes just did the thing like 2 issues later.
I mean, this is my first time reading this, and I don't really have any knowledge of. I know of like new Thor, Lady Thor, and that kind of stuff, but I guess I didn't realize this is what caused it. For me, this is just the Watcher's murder mystery. Like,
yep.
And then this whole thing about lies is just like, okay, that happened during the course of finding out who killed the Watcher. So I guess in that way, I didn't even think about the fact that the lies didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm with Matt on this one. It just if they were gonna do this, I think right. And this is funny because I picked this, and even rereading it, I was like, why? Why did I pick this other than for the orb? And
the orb.
I mean, it looks pretty.
It looks great. On
those like, stupid lines. Why they cut all? Okay. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get there.
This should have been. It was 8 comics, right? And if you don't count the 2 like setup ones,
yeah,
this should have been a 2-year-long crazy event. Because not only does when the orb sets off quote unquote the bomb, nothing happens. They all kind of are like, oh shit, this is bad. I know something now, but I'm still not going to tell anybody else what that thing is. And 2, the team ups are really intriguing.
Nothing really happens though.
But yeah, there's no explanation as to why they picked those teams, and they never flesh out what could have been. Do I want to read a Doctor Strange Punisher comic? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, those scenes were really cool, but like
that was the best combo.
Yeah, I want to know why. Like, I would definitely read that if it was like 2 or 3 comics of this series. Like, if Original Sin was a series that went longer than 8 issues and didn't have to cram all this bullshit into 8 issues, it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been way more successful if you could have seen these teams. Like, even the Moon Knight, Bucky, Gamora one would have been fantastic. Ant-Man and Emma and Black Panther would have been maybe okay. You've got the comic relief and the super serious ones.
It really felt like they included those characters because they're the main part of the MCU. Like, most of those characters are starring roles in the movies, is why they were picked. And it's hard to imagine that Nick Fury's like, these people are the best for the Watcher on the wall position.
Yeah, Scott Lang Ant-Man's the one to me that I just like. I could easily see Black Panther.
Strange have the time to be that and Sorcerer
Nick Fury somehow does, which we haven't even gotten into the fact that this just like introduces an entire secret history for Nick Fury that did not really like. Nick Fury does not need a secret history of doing clandestine stuff. He does clandestine stuff.
That's his entire being. That's his job. That's his whole story in the
super secret spy who's got a super secret.
Yeah. No, and I just think those teams never got a chance to flesh out other than the fact that it would have been like made you want more, but it didn't make you want more of the story that was being told. It made you want more of those particular teams. Like I was like, yeah, no, I want to see this. I want to see this flesh out more.
I would have even gone the opposite direction, I feel like, Tyler, where instead of like making the thing longer, I would have cut out
like half of the heroes.
I would like cut out. I would have started with the like cool secret weird team because like that's the selling point, right? Like I've got so many comics I can go see Captain America and Iron Man and like Spider-Man in, but like I can't see Black Panther and Emma Frost teaming up that often. That's really interesting to me. But
criminally underusing Emma Frost is
a crime, right?
It's a sin.
Yeah, you put it that way. That makes more sense. Because they could have done an Avengers Assemble thing at the end, and everyone would have been like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah, and like the secrets didn't go anywhere. So like, do I need? I mean, you kind of do need that because it's important to the end, like that the Watcher's eyes apparently record everything he sees.
So dumb. So dumb.
Yeah, like there are so many things where.
Why wouldn't it be his brain? Why wouldn't it be his eyes?
Because his eyes are cooler to look at.
Also, that brain would be pretty big to carry around. So.
Yeah, there's that too.
Like I said, they gave away promotional bouncy balls that look like eyeballs. Oh, I think I still have one. If I have one, I'll take a picture of it and send it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. They like glowed in the dark or whatever and said like original sin. So it's easier promotional material too that you can just give away.
I mean, it's much cuter than a giant brain.
Yeah.
But just like that's one of those ideas. To me is like one of those ideas I feel like maybe I should be into because I'm just into wacky comic book stuff, but it just doesn't work for some reason. I don't know, but.
No, you were saying the business side of it failed. Did you say the other part? I felt that didn't fail.
Oh, no, I'm pretty sure this failed all around. Okay. I was just saying it kind of failed on two fronts. You know, the business side, it didn't do what I wanted it to do, and the other side is that the story just doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Or it moves too fast and it crams too much in, and the team ups could have been amazing, but they're not. And you know the big reveal of Nick Fury is kind of meh.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
that's the biggest sin for me is that the reveal, like the big whodunit, was
And I know we'll touch more on this later. But like it was just like, okay, that's fine, I guess. And then when they pick the replacement Watcher, you're like, okay, that's fine, I guess. And then when you see that the Unseen is still Nick Fury alive, you're like, okay, so that was just a life model decoy this whole fucking time anyways. Like it set up all this stuff, nothing came from it, and then the ending retconned itself anyways. And you're like, oh, well, okay, this is dumb. I don't like any of this.
I think that was actually Nick Fury on the moon, and he just got like possessed by the Watcher's power or whatever at the end, and that like made him a cosmic being, and that's how he survived the explosion.
Oh, I thought it was the other Watchers, like as punishment for killing Uatu.
Well, I mean, that could be too. It's not explained, turns out.
that could be.
So Tyler talked about how a lot of this book feels like it's bookkeeping and chess moves and business moves, and like we haven't even talked about the one that I was talking to Pat about before we started recording, which is I think a lot of this book is also just get old white Nick Fury off the board in mainstream Marvel Universe continuity so that you can replace him with his son who looks like Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury.
I can't believe that he has a long lost black son. That is an awful way.
So we go from I'm going to quickly walk the listeners through the history of why Nick Fury got replaced by his black son in mainstream continuity. So in the Ultimate Universe, Nick Fury is drawn to look like Samuel L. Jackson in Ultimates. This is like when was Ultimates? I'll find it for the show notes. Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
It kind of ended in 2011 with like House of M and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Secret War. Yeah, I guess.
War and Ultimatum and all that good stuff.
Yeah. But like original Ultimate series, he's drawn like Samuel L. Jackson because they thought it'd be funny. And so when they cast Nick Fury in the Marvel movies, they were like, oh, we can actually cast Samuel L. Jackson. And so then Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury in the Marvel movies. And then the mainstream Marvel universe is like, well, we've got to get our Nick Fury to look like Samuel L. Jackson, but we've also got this old white guy that's been around since World War II. How do we do that? Well, we introduce his long lost black son and then make him into the Watcher.
That makes sense. I mean, that's just
comic books, everyone.
That's textbook comic book nonsense is what that is.
Also, the chemical that's been keeping him perpetually young, it's going to stop working.
Just magically, you know.
Yeah.
Like it does.
You know, comic books.
One day from retirement.
Always one day.
So the reason I'm still split on yes and no is that there are cool bits in the story. I don't like... The art is good, first off, although Pat has issue with the fact that the panels are divided into sub-panels for no reason.
Unnecessary. I agree that the art is gorgeous, but like full panels just split into like multiple sections for no reason. Really annoying. It's like someone went into Microsoft Paint and just drew these lines across the comic book.
And didn't even hold shift. They are not straight. They are just all over the place.
Well, a lot of them are straight. But like, so I liked Black Panther in this. I know, Pat, you disagree, but like,
I don't know enough about Black Panther to have any stakes in it. So
yeah, that's fair. And like the Bucky, the thing is, like, all the reveals with Nick Fury are so obviously fake throughout. Like, Bucky cuts off Nick Fury's head, and if you know anything about Nick Fury, you're like, oh, that was a life model decoy. Like, it's not a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
There's nothing shocking about that at all.
Also, at the beginning of the story, and it's hard for me to say this I know I've read it before, I checked it out from the library in California, but like when Black Panther receives the like radio communication being like, oh, the Watcher's been murdered, I've got a team for you, like, that's obviously Nick Fury, right? Like, there's no one else that does that in the Marvel Universe.
Sure.
To the point where even Wolverine comments on it later of like, this has Fury's fingerprints all over. It's like, yeah, this was not a mystery to me of like who hired them, even though you've been trying to.
Yeah, there was a lot of, well, the person we're working for, or
yeah,
oh, do we even trust who hired us? Well, yeah, y'all know who hired you.
Yeah,
this shouldn't be a surprise. Like that, suddenly Moon Knight and Gamora are on a spaceship together, wondering, could it have been the same person or not? Well, of course it was. It's too random.
Like, I feel like there are neat moments. I liked the Steak Night stuff. Steak Night was good.
Steak Night?
Yeah, Steak Night, when they have Steak Night at the beginning and then at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like Moon Knight and then Steak Night? I'm so
Steak Night, yeah. Moon Knight and Steak Knife. His partner.
His partner, Steak Knife.
No, like, so to spoil a later question, Tyler's question is who was right. I think Wolverine was right, that Nick Fury violated the sanctity of Steak Night by sending a robot. Personally, I think that was probably the greatest crime in the entire book.
Yeah.
But I don't think the cool moments or the art add up to being enough to make this a satisfying story. It does just feel like bookkeeping and a mystery that wasn't really a mystery because eventually the murderer just commits or like admits to it, but also has wanted to admit to it the entire, like, no mystery is solved. Nick Fury like drops breadcrumbs that lets them figure out he did it. Like, he just confessed with extra steps.
Yeah, and the only cool thing that happens with Nick Fury, in my opinion, that like maybe makes you wonder, maybe a little bit, is when he's holding the eye, staring at it, going, "Why didn't I see anything?" Like, that's the only part that kind of got me like, all right, maybe there is some sort of mystery here revolving around him.
I was just like, oh, he's a robot. Yeah, that's the one Bucky kills. Yeah, so like, again, he's just
robots don't have secrets. Silly robot.
Yeah, but then that kind of sets up, the whole he's got an army of other Nick Furies on the moon kind of thing, and all of the LMDs that he's got stored away while he's just being old and killing monsters in different universes.
Yeah, you know what is a cool Jason Aaron idea though? Killing a living planet. That was cool. I'll give him that.
And that had a funny. I like the full spread of the dead planet. It was great.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of really cool moments, but none of it adds up.
Yeah, it doesn't quite become a satisfying story. I don't think.
There's the fact that when Strange and Punisher show up, and Wolverine and Hulk are there, like that part's cool. Like the fact that instead of Doctor Strange fighting Hulk, he goes after Wolverine and Punisher takes out the Hulk. Like it's just like little moments like that. There's the funny bits like Lang saying, "Are we actually going to do this?" And Doctor Strange says,
Doctor Strange's like, "Could we not?
Could we not?" And he's like, "All right, all space ants, retreat." Like there was moments like that. Rocket Raccoon being like, "I don't even know why I'm here, but most of you are annoying."
No one knows why Rocket Raccoon is in this story.
So there's a lot of really cool parts, but yeah, I don't like it, and I picked it.
I mean, that happens sometimes, man. You come back to a thing and you're just like, "This is not."
I liked it then. Should I just side note real quick why I picked this one?
Sure.
This is honest to God truth why I picked this. I was visiting my parents. Right after Christmas. I was over at my folks' place, and a bunch of my old comics are still stashed there, including all the paperback versions of this one. And while I was there visiting, an old family friend came over and started talking about politics, and they're like pro orange guy. So I literally went, I'm going to go see what comics are still buried here.
I'm just going to go read my comics. Yes.
because I know I got to think of one for the show, because this was right around when you asked me. So I went downstairs to my folks' basement and started digging through my comics, found the original Sin, and went, you know what? I don't remember if this is good or not, but it would be against tradition to not pick something by Jason Aaron. So let's do it. And that's why I came up with it. So no way did I actually ever think that this was actually that good of a comic.
I mean, honestly, if the comic helped you out of that situation, 5 stars.
Best comic of all time. Anyways, I just thought that was funny and how I came about it.
Yeah. No, Matt, I think all of us are leaning on not satisfied, but
yeah, I think that is correct.
I got a couple questions that maybe you guys can answer. So the Unseen in like the prequel issue, were those Fury bots?
Okay. Cool thing I read from the interviews that I checked out before we started recording. This book was originally going to be written by Ed Brubaker, who wrote that prologue bit.
Oh.
And then just pieced out. So who knows? I mean, they to fit in with this story, yes, they must be LMDs, right? They must be other.
They have to be, yeah.
Yeah,
but were they initially when that story was written? No idea.
Well, they call themselves the Unseen, so.
Yeah, but I think Jason Aaron just had that to work with and had to fit it into whatever he was doing. Anyways.
And they use a teleporting tube that Bucky uses to teleport. So I was very confused. Very confused.
And apparently this is an idea that the Watcher being murdered and how and why went around in various Marvel summits for years, and people kind of grabbed at it and then they were like, oh, it's not the right time, or a writer was like, I have an idea for it, and then it didn't work out, and then eventually it came around to where Jason Aaron was like, yeah, I'm up for a Marvel event, and this sounds like basically a crime comic, but cosmic. I can do that. Mm-hmm. And so, using Brubaker's prologue story, and then ideas that the editor-in-chief had been kicking around between the editorial staff, wrote the comic. So it's kind of written by committee too, in a weird way. Not really. I think Jason Aaron figured out a story and wrote it, but
well, that's another question. You were saying, this sets off so much stuff in the Marvel comics afterwards. I'm assuming most of that was predetermined before the story was written, so he knows wherever he knows that secrets need to be released, and Hulk needs to be pissed at Tony, and Thor can't pick up his hammer at the end of this kind of thing.
Well, the Thor one's interesting because that's Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron just gave it to himself.
Okay. Yeah, but the other threads that he's throwing out, I assume, is preordained, right?
Or I don't know how far ahead Marvel's got plans when it comes to comic books. I mean, obviously everybody knows how their movie studio works these days, but from comics, it seems like they're kind of knee-jerk sometimes.
It's a loose plan from what I know about it, where there's stuff that's set up and there's stuff that they're building towards, but there's wiggle room along the way, which this is only from years of reading creator interviews and process stuff, so all secondhand hearsay sort of thing, but that's my interpretation of it.
The only clear one is Thor, and then Hulk and Iron Man, right? The other
Yeah,
ones
so
are,
I can give you some of those secrets. Like I'm looking at the page right before.
well,
Orb
sure. The other ones are
brought
just
up.
like Spider-Man had like disappeared for a while to deal with his secret, and like
Yeah,
a
so like
couple other people just like pieced out for a bit and then came back.
or didn't come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man's was that there was a person who got bit by the radioactive spider before him.
Mm.
So he goes to find her, and she's a character now. I think she's cool. I don't know. I've never really read anything that she's in. Her name is Silk, her code name. Thor, or not Thor's, we obviously like Thor's secret is that he has a sister, and that's
Yep.
an event between him and Loki. Like, because there was a Loki comic going on at the time too, which is very good. Go read it.
I actually have that one. I probably should have picked that one. It's sitting underneath Original Sin on the pile, but it is very good.
So Thor goes to deal with that, and then the thing that Nick Fury whispers to him at the end, I will not spoil what it is, but that's what sets him up to like basically believe he's not worthy of the hammer, and then spoiler, Jane Foster picks it up and becomes Thor for a bit. And that's all Jason Aaron stuff.
Once I found out what he whispered, I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty hardcore. I like it."
It is kind of good actually.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
You were never your father's favorite.
No.
So then...
And that's just because I'm a big Jason Aaron fan. So like knowing where that whisper comes from, I was like, all right, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it also kind of makes sense that the text is not in the comic, because I think if you don't have the context of the entire Thor run, and I'm trying so hard to not spoil it, but also give a good context for why the whisper's not in there besides just making it a secret. Like, if you don't have context for the run, the words mean nothing.
Yeah. It would just be gibberish.
I don't understand the Watcher on the Wall and like how they got intel of all the things that were going to destroy Earth before they did.
Nonsense, Pat. There's no good explanation of that.
Like demons and interdimensional species, like during their board meeting about devouring the Earth, Nick Fury shoots them. It's like, wow, that intel is real good.
Yeah, I don't get that either, because it just seems so. I mean, this is a comic book, right? But even that part, I'm like, I don't see that. I don't see how that would even be.
Well, when you have a character who's the Watcher, who is the one that is supposed to know all this stuff, but that's not where they're getting the information from, it's a little hard to swallow.
Yeah,
It's
Howard Stark and some other people, maybe.
Well, and my thing too is that's why I think the unseen at the end is like real Nick Fury, who is, cursed.
Yeah.
Where the one that dies fighting the Avengers is still a life model decoy, because the only way Nick Fury would know to point Nick Fury in that direction would be as Nick Fury could see all. You know what I mean?
I think it's just a Jason Aaron idea where he's like, this sounds cool, and doesn't really like think through the logistics of what it would actually take.
I think it's like what remains of Nick Fury is chained to the moon.
There is theoretically like a secret Marvel organization that also is called S.H.I.E.L.D. for some reason, that like was in a Jonathan Hickman series that I have not read, but I know Howard Stark's involved in that, so maybe it's connected to that, but I think honestly it's just bullshit.
I think the Unseen has an Eye of the Watcher, right? I think that's what they're hinting at.
Yeah,
I think page.
Yeah, the Unseen has one and the Orb has one at this point.
Where's the Orb? Yes.
Yeah.
Which, how come that never followed up?
He wants to watch a random woman.
He's just like, instead of, there are good bits in this where like the Watcher shows up at like momentous occasions that are like historical and like gonna change the shape of the world or the universe or whatever. The Orb just wants to see weird sadistic shit.
You want to see people cut out eyes, I think.
Well, that's where he's starting. Who knows where it'll end, Pat?
Occasionally he likes to roll around naked in eyeballs. He said so himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a weird one.
Oh boy. So yeah.
Any other questions, Pat, that we can try to answer and fail?
I mean, those are the two major ones. Like the beginning didn't make any sense, and also how does that Wall Watcher thing work? And it doesn't.
No, I think the answer is yeah.
So yeah, unsatisfied is where I'm landing.
So we've answered the question of was this a satisfying story with a fairly resounding no.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now let's discuss some of the interesting story points.
The
Yes.
parts that almost made it a good story make good discussion points.
Which I think, let's start with Pat's. I think that makes sense.
Fine by me.
Okay.
So Pat,
my-
what is your question?
Yeah, my question is, the whole thing that starts this all off is the death or the murder of the Watcher. But while reading through this and seeing the flashback, we see that the Watcher sort of had a hand in his own death. So my question is, did the Watcher commit suicide by provoking Nick Fury into killing him?
I think yes. Like, I don't really know how to read that, like, that situation and not say yes to that, honestly.
I think
pull up the relevant pages just to make sure.
Well, I kind of agree. After you posted that question in our text, I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. But when you read the prologue comic with Nova,
Yeah.
and he shows all that past stuff, and he's watching and watching, and it always stems from the same thing. You can tell that Watu's just kind of over it.
I mean, like, he's had to look at so much shit through the years, and then people showed up in his home and took his eye.
I feel like you had to let that happen, though, right? Or is his vow of non-action to the point that if, like, doesn't he have defenses around this citadel with, like, super dangerous technology?
You would think.
He's got all the most dangerous weapons in the universe just hanging out in the armory.
Yeah, so when the Orb and Midas and what's her name? Executrix or whatever her name is.
It's really dumb, is what it is.
Yeah.
I hate that name
Terminatrix,
so much.
Thank Grant Morrison for that one, Pat.
Grant, I like most of the stuff you've done, but you misstepped there. I'm sorry. Did they show up?
Put that in the show notes. Put it again. Noted.
Noted.
It's his fault.
It was the early 2000s. We all made mistakes, Pat.
Did they show up in the 45-minute every 3 years that Uatu blacks out? Is that how they got through the defenses?
No, because he was he was awake when it let them in. So like.
Oh, he definitely just let it all happen.
Yeah.
So it's definitely suicide then. He definitely brought his own death.
And also, Nick Fury has a gun pointed at his head, but like that's classic Nick Fury. Who cares? He's not gonna actually shoot him. But Uatu then like charges his hands up.
Hands get glowy. Nick's like, no.
And he says it is time for someone else to watch. Like, it's pretty clear. And in one of the interviews, again, I read, they were like, oh, it's ambiguous. It does not feel ambiguous to me at all. Like, the Watcher was just done with it. Which, again, is another thing that I feel like the prologue story did a decent job of showing why that might be the case. But this, like, issues 1 through 8 of Original Sin didn't do a great job of showing
if that's all you read... If that's all you read was 1 through 8, you were missing the best part of the whole story, which was 0.
Which was not written by Jason Aaron, by the way.
Yeah. But,
honestly, the Nova stuff is the most intriguing to me. It's like, you know what? Of all the things they've set up in this, I think I'm going to go look and see where the Nova story goes.
Yeah, and then Nova doesn't even show up in the book except for like in some splash pages and stuff. It's just like, Marvel, come on.
Yeah.
So not to give it away, but that was going to be my suggestion at the end of this. So what you should go read is the Nova comics.
Sweet.
That follow that, which I've suggested before because it's just fun. But he has such a relationship with the Watcher in those comics.
Yeah, I did like the back and forth they had, just not
a
single issue.
And they show it in that issue, and the fact that he doesn't show up to like try and
when he's been murdered?
Yeah, when he's been murdered, to try and figure out why he was murdered or anything like that. He's an afterthought in these comics, and that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and like it's just such a waste of the good. Like that issue probably is the best issue of this story, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's such a waste of really good setup to then focus on this situation where the Watcher just commits suicide by Nick Fury. We don't really know.
For
like,
reasons.
We do know why, but we don't know why at the same time.
You can assume. I mean, with that one line, I've seen too much or whatever it was.
But again, it's just being told, right? Like, there's so many bits in this book where I'm just being told what's happening in a comic book.
Right. And I feel like the rest of the story, the Watcher sees everything, like, and in multiple parallel dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Like everything. So
Mhm.
the quote unquote secrets that get revealed seem so like minimal, like the surface layer of what the Watcher knows.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be the big reveal. It's like, oh, the Watcher's knowledge has been revealed. It's like, no, like 0.0000001% of the Watcher's knowledge has been revealed.
The Hulk is mad at Iron Man. Oh no.
Oh no!
Oh no! That's
Will they be friends again? Probably. Give it a year or two.
Tune in next time. It's just a weird way for this big major cosmic being to go out, but at the same time, I guess I don't get it. But yeah, it's definitely suicide by Nick Fury.
I did actually enjoy their weird little relationship that gets set up here. I think that is one of the best parts of like Original Sin proper is this weird contentious thing that Nick Fury, who has always been a man who is willing to go get his hands dirty and do things that maybe people would say like shouldn't be done, even before this weird comic decided that he was doing it on a cosmic scale. Like that's just been his MO. Like he would totally have a problem with this guy who has all this intel and chooses to do nothing with it. Like that's a cool contrast actually. I think it like you didn't need to go quite as hard on it as you did maybe.
Yeah, it's basically what if the Watcher did what if the Watcher did
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The Watcher is neutral, right? He doesn't have stakes in it. He just is an observer.
I mean, did kind of learn the wrong lesson from that thing in the Zero issue where they were like, let's give these people nuclear power. Oh no, they blew themselves up. It's like, no, instead of doing nothing, you should do something.
Yeah, like
because you did
one of your quote unquote
left.
Watchers stay and watch them more than just 5 years with nuclear power.
And if it looks like they're going to do something stupid,
Step is like, whoa,
stop them.
Hold up. Yeah. Okay, listen, guys. We gave you this to help, not stop it. All right, we'll take it away. We're gonna take your toys. Is what should have happened.
We're kind of already jumping into Tyler's question. I feel
yeah, sure.
Which is
what was your question?
Is this where we're jumping into it?
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
Sometimes that just happens, Tyler. With the new format.
My question was simple: who was right?
Who are the who?
I mean, that's a good. Yeah, this is a good question.
They all all the characters that they shoehorn into this thing, all have an opinion somewhere, right? But the two big players is obviously Nick Fury and Uatu, and they both had different ways of going about it. I'm curious to see what you guys say first on who you think was in the right out of all of this. Fury or Uatu?
Of the two?
Yeah.
So which one, given omnipotence, given all the knowledge, is it right to take action or is it right not to take action is basically the question, right?
That's pretty much it, yeah. Should Nick Fury have done what he did all those years, being Space Judge Dredd? Or was Uatu just kind of hanging out, watching, binge watching life, the better option?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say that Nick Fury did the wrong thing, saying that he saved the Earth multiple times, right? Like, in the comic book, the Earth would have been devoured, destroyed numerous times, invaded.
Although Doctor Strange does make a point that they stopped most of those anyways.
Yeah, I thought that was funny when Strange was like, Nick was like, oh, well, I let you live in ignorance.
It's a weird point for him to make to Doctor Strange, though. The
Sorcerer
Supreme.
Do you know the amount of shit that he has to do?
Yeah, out of all the guys to make that argument too. Not to mention, if
you kill one demon.
Yeah, you kill one, leave it there for a couple thousand years, and Doctor Strange and the Punisher find it, and you're like, yeah, but look at how good I was.
I've taken care of everything for you. Yeah. It's like, what? How dare you?
But two, then you look at the argument, Nick Fury's protecting the planet, blah blah blah. How many times he fucked up and stuff got through, and the heroes had to do his dirty work? Like, if he was right, was he good at it? I don't know.
And why do it all in secret? Also, is the thing is like, I mean, because people would try to stop him, but if these threats are so imminent that they have to be dealt with in such a like, who did that planet hurt? I want to know.
Yeah, it's not Ego. Like if it was Ego, cool, you got kind of that argument that he's a bad guy.
Maybe
And,
it would have become Ego or something similar to. I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know, right? Because it's just a cool moment.
Well, it's
where
because
we
he's
see
judge
what
and executioner, so
yeah.
like he's committing genocide on multiple alien species because he found a boardroom of them plotting to kill the Earth. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
definitely they both have valid arguments.
morally, I don't think Nick Fury is the right way to go, but like comic book wise, sure. I'd like to live. I'd like the Earth to still exist, I guess.
See, and like we get to operate from the point of view where we know Nick Fury is at least basically a good guy, so it's okay for him to do it. But like, this is a fantasy comic book, so in real life, does that work out? I don't know.
Well, also, Uatu is always.
Oh, go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry. Look, I'm just gonna say the Watcher's stuff to me is like he breaks his own vow all the time, so even he doesn't think he's right.
Like whenever the Watcher knows something that would put everyone in peril, he tells someone. He doesn't keep it to himself. So at the same time, he does the same thing that Nick Fury does, and then he's not the one pulling the trigger.
Yeah, and he just waits for like certain situations where he's needed, as opposed to Nick Fury, who's out there like proactively. So I don't know, but like I don't think the Watchers like, hey, I'm not gonna do anything is right, because that's just like it's such a crappy answer, especially when you have knowledge and powers that could help people.
The Watcher sees the future as well, right?
Yes, but possible futures also.
Okay, so he knows what
potentially
might happen.
Yeah, I don't think he sees this is a definitive thing.
So that could be said that like he only tells the heroes about threats that he doesn't see the heroes being able to handle by themselves if they don't get forewarned. So in that way, I guess, like Nick Fury's dealing with, I don't know where he's getting the intel he's getting, but he has to take it seriously every time because he doesn't know. So I don't know. It's tough. But I guess I'm on Nick's side.
Yeah, I think I agree. While also recognizing the danger in that agreement of like, okay, who's making the call and what are the consequences are real problems that I don't think this comic even quite gets into tackling. Like it almost does. It thinks about it, but then it's a Marvel comic book.
It knows not to go off that deep end.
There should be like a massive alien armada coming because Nick Fury pissed off the wrong region of certain dimension. But they always say that no one knows that he's there when he kills people, so that wipes the slate clean.
So that's a thing that comes up actually in some like related Marvel stuff. Like very related actually, now that I think of it. And I think you guys have both read comics with the Illuminati in them, which is like the secret cabal that's Iron Man, Black Panther, Namor, Black Bolt, Charles,
Smarties,
Beast for a little bit. Yeah, basically big brains.
Reed.
Oh, Reed, yes.
So
in the aftermath of the Kree-Skrull War, those guys go to like basically say fuck off Skrulls. Like they go to the Skrull homeworld, and in doing so they basically trigger the Skrulls to come invade Earth later, like years later.
Whoops.
So that happens in a different Marvel comic about secret history people doing secret history
things. It's a classic, right? Overstepping,
it is.
And then
well, and the Illuminati also started the Civil War and also started Planet Hulk, and there's been a lot of that. We're going to be judge, jury, executioner, and then it backfires,
and then it just blows up in your face. Yeah. So like I do want to side with Nick Fury, but I also recognize that it's very dangerous to say that.
Well, I have two answers to this. The first is the fact that the only true right answer or even statement in this entire book was when Scott Lang said, "Are you sure I'm supposed to be here?" He was right. He didn't belong. So that was it. So that's such a stupid setup for a joke, but I don't care. No,
I do still also stand by the fact that Wolverine's right. Nick Fury sending a robot to go eat steak with his friends is terrible friendsmanship. Like,
Yeah, so I mean, there were a lot of right and wrongs in this book. Wolverine and Scott Lang, Ant-Man are the only two definitive. Everyone can agree on this. I'm gonna go with Uatu being the right one only because you've seen it so many times where he's broken the vow.
Yeah.
And you could also make the argument that with Nick Fury going and taking out these threats, it's more of a predetermined threat or predetermined. I'm just gonna make sure that this doesn't become a threat thing.
Mhm.
But it's also not fair to whatever. I mean, the one that he takes out in the boardroom, they're just trying to feed their planet, right? Like, and I get it. We're the good guys because we're the humans and all that. But were they really doing anything wrong when he took them out? What did that planet that he killed do? The one that he kills in the underground Earth. What he was eating smaller creatures. So what?
It was creepy. So
It was like I don't know. It was just one of those things where you're like, Fury, I get what you're doing, what you say you're doing, but
is there a better way to solve our problem
Yeah,
than by
there's gotta be
shooting
a
all
better
of them in the head?
yeah, like it's cool, good job, you got bigger bullets and all that, but like, there's got to be a different way.
Yeah, maybe it's just neither, honestly, because like I do think the Watchers learned the wrong lesson from their mistake. Like, I don't think just sitting around doing nothing is like a great power, great responsibility, right? Like, it's the whole Marvel thing. Like, what are they like? What they're not making up for their past actions by doing nothing. They're just kicking the can down the road. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, it should have been a learn from our mistakes thing.
I mean,
from their side of it.
I would be on the Watcher's side more if he didn't commit suicide. if he didn't directly cause his own death, because he would have seen a potential future where Nick Fury's Watcher on the Wall, that is now what is protecting Earth. So obviously, he felt that was enough in some degrees. Obviously, because he got himself killed. I don't know.
Fair point. It's a fair point. And it could be one of those things where, same thing, there's no real right answer because he was right morally, but knew Nick Fury was doing the right thing. Kind of idea.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like, if he like disagreed with Fury so much, he could have stopped him whenever he wanted.
One whisper to someone that Nick Fury's on a satellite killing demons. That's all it took.
Yeah, and he could have been like, "Hey, Nick, I've been watching you this whole time, Mr. Unseen. Lulz. Stop doing this." And then they could have fought it out.
Jealous of Nick Fury. Like, that's just a thought that popped into my head, and I don't know if it actually even makes sense, but like,
have freedom of action? Is it
yeah, like, has the ability to act on this weird cosmic intel he has and like make choices that affect the future. Whereas Uato's just gotta watch everything.
Yeah, and he's got all those sweet weapons in his closet just down the hall. Just itching to use them. Can't do it. Ultimate nullifier within reach and can't use it.
Which apparently is only powerful enough to shoot a mindless.
To kill one mindless, yeah.
And not even take him out completely. Left his hand and everything.
Ultimate my ass.
Just a nullifier, really.
Just nullifier.
They should really label that on the box better. I feel like that's an upsell. Like, magic erasers aren't really magic. I've tried. Some shit. They should just call them erasers.
So are we pretty united on the fact that neither is the actual answer to who was right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, other than Scott Lang and Wolverine. They're the only two.
Yeah.
See, but the Wolverine one, I think Wolverine's always been friends with a robot, so that robot was there for him, so in that way it was still true.
Nah, you don't.
Wolverine had never met the real Nick Fury.
Yeah, see, so that's the thing with this that I think is weird too, is that it leads you to potentially believe that Nick Fury was never anywhere.
No, it's always been robots. That's what this comic.
And I don't think it has. I don't think that's what the comic book is telling you.
Are you sure? Are you sure they weren't robots?
Recently, Nick Fury got really old, so he had to start using robots.
No.
But it makes it feel like, because he looks so old, and they don't do a good job of explaining the fact that he only got old a week ago.
No, because that was a dumb plot point. my eternal youth serum is not working. So I got
For reasons.
dumb. I
Yeah, they
ignored
never
that
really
and
explained
said,
that.
nope, he's been an old man in a space station this whole time.
I always wondered what he had. I didn't realize that he had some sort of weird super soldier nonsense. Like
Yeah.
infinity serum or something like that.
I think that's what they call it.
Because Marvel never does like actual, hey, we're starting over reboots. They have to keep doing these weird things to keep characters who are tied to specific eras not tied to those eras, or tie them there and like say, oh, they're using the Infinity Formula or the Super Soldier Serum, or Magneto was de-aged into a baby and then re-aged up into his 30s.
Oh, we've all been there.
Like you do. Or like the
Last
Punisher,
Thursday
I think,
even.
has been like a veteran of 3 different wars at this point in Marvel continuity.
Yeah, what he was first Vietnam, and then it was now he's Iraqi.
Yeah, and then
War.
Iraq, and then gosh, probably be Afghanistan soon, if not already.
Yeah. He's been now he's a samurai, so whatever. That's neither here.
It's not even.
Yeah. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, that was Original Sin, guys.
Yep, it was.
So
Pat, that's the correct way to feel at the end of this discussion. I think.
Original Sin, is that just what the big event is now called? Like that's like.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
so
just
this-
the name of the series. The
that's
same
the
way
name of the
Civil War
series.
is Civil War, and
Like
There
all
were
the big-
original
World War
Sin
Hulk
tie-ins.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's how it worked.
Yeah, so those tie-ins would all have Original Sin in the upper left corner or whatever.
But like Lady Thor isn't under that banner, is it?
No.
No.
So the original sin for Thor is just his sister, and then
Yep.
him being unworthy is a different thing.
Is a different thing, yes. Which
And
is
that's-
in different comics.
Mr. Aaron setting up 2 things for your own comic run? That seems really greedy.
Well, that's the thing too. Like this is called Original Sin. You think that the deepest, darkest secrets that everybody had would be deeper and darker,
Yeah,
but
like,
it's silly stuff like
a
that
lot of
doesn't
them are
even
really
affect them.
inconsequential. The only other one I remember and that I think actually matters is that Captain America. What Captain America sees is that he remembers that the Illuminati like mind wiped him, so that he wouldn't remember that he was on the Illuminati for a brief period, and that they're now destroying planets in the multiverse so that Earth doesn't blow up.
Oh, that's nice.
And like that one actually matters to a lot of stuff going forward.
With the
Yeah.
title like Original Sin, it would have been cool if Uatu had like a deep dark secret. Like the fact that maybe he didn't ever have to follow the vow and is purposely not. Like something.
yeah.
Like there was like a big thing that he was holding secret.
Or just
That's
touch
kinda what
more
it
on
was.
his, like, the Watcher race stuff than you do in issue 0, right? Because we see it
Sure.
in issue 0 and then it's not referenced ever again.
Right.
Yeah.
In that way, I guess, yeah, that is sort of the original sin. But yeah, it wasn't in this main run of the story. It was just
No.
in this one.
And he doesn't talk about it at all, other than, like, he says, I have seen too much. But as a reader, that's not specific enough for me to get a lot
Like,
out of
yeah,
it.
I think like a
honestly.
2-page multi-paneled like of Uatu staring at civilizations dying while he watches on before he gets shot in the head. Just something.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean the other characters you don't even know what they ran into. Like they never actually say what Doctor Strange saw that ruined his life, and they don't ever show anything that Black Panther saw or the rest of them that were there.
I'm not sure that team's actually there at that point.
Yeah, I don't
your,
think-
your point still stands of like I could not tell you what Daredevil's was, and I think I've
Yeah,
read
Daredevil.
that comic.
I forgot that he was name dropped in this.
Well, since
He's
I got the
standing
page
there.
up, so I got the
Oh, is
page
he
up
there?
right
Oh
here
my God.
Yeah,
where Captain America's walking away
They go boom. Where's he go?
about something or another. Hold on.
Up
Doctor
towards-
Strange says, and I quote, "No one trusts anyone now with so many of our secrets dragged into the light. Somehow it's made us all more secretive than ever. For now, I think we've all suffered enough for our sins." So obviously, Orb went after him on the moon, right? And like showed him. Because Orb got the eye, and they had their little fight on the moon with them.
I would both believe you're right, and I would bet you $5 that that's never shown in the comic.
Which part?
The like showing Doctor Strange or Black Panther or whoever secrets, because I think the only secret showing that we see is the one that's on Earth in New York, while that team is away on their various missions.
Yeah, look, there's Daredevil right there.
Hold
Yep.
on.
And
Hold
Kitty
on.
Pryde, apparently.
Black Widow, she's got secrets.
Nice man's there.
Who's the shirtless guy next to Black Widow? Can't tell.
That is Luke Cage, I believe, and I think he has a yellow shirt on.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
it does.
Luke
hard
Cage
to
has
see.
like a whole.
It's hard to see with the shadows.
Luke Cage has
Yeah.
like a whole panel where he's getting lit up by this, and you never hear anything else from him.
Nope.
He says, "What the hell does this mean? Why would?" And that's all we get.
Yep.
So Orb does take out the Hulk on the moon, but that's
With
it
his, This blast.
with his eye blast thing.
Yeah.
And then
No
okay,
one
so
was even on that page too. Come on, guys.
yeah, they failed. So here's one other thing, Dr. Midas. If we're just gonna go off the deep end here, there's two other random questions I have.
Orb's there too. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Dr. Midas, why does he look like the Thing? And who the fuck is Dr. Midas?
Yes, I thought it was the Thing when he was on the table, like injured. It's like what?
Yeah.
What happened?
Matt, you got anything on that?
So again, this is early 2000s Grant Morrison bullshit.
Grant Morrison, why?
Grant Morrison,
like-
you bastard!
I never read that miniseries that Dr. Midas and Exterminatrix are in, so I don't have a lot on them, guys. I'm sorry. Like, and the reason he looks like the Thing is because his face is cracking because he was exposed to weird cosmic eye stuff. Like, I think that's new. Like, I think earlier he looked like Iron Man, like old Iron Man in gold armor because he turns stuff to gold when he touches it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But as far as like what his deal is and where he came from, I don't know any more than you do, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. What was the? Oh wait, so hold on. Yeah, here it is, right here. What page is this? What issue is this? Shit, hold on.
What story is this?
What is going on?
So this is an original sin. Number 7. I don't know. 6 or 7 pages in, 8 pages, maybe more. I lost count. Orb does step out with a dead life model decoy, and he's got all the powers and all the secrets, and blasts everybody.
He's all glowy. Yeah.
While the ones who were exposed on Earth are fighting in space. So he does get them at least once. So you owe me $5, but that's cool. Settle
Okay.
up another time.
Nope, but no
Next
one
time-
said. No one
Next time I'm
says.
in Minnesota.
No one says a no. My sister. I can't believe she.
Well, that's because it cuts over. That's because it cuts to a flashback.
I'm just
Which
saying,
is
there's
really
no
dumb.
proof on the page that anyone in that sequence
Oh,
saw
they're
a
all-
secret.
It's assumed at this point.
I think they say the only people on the Earth get their secret. Didn't Nick Fury say luckily only people in proximity were affected or something like that?
Yeah. But he changed the world, Pat. The world.
The whole
Man who
world.
changed the world.
And by the world, we mean like about 30 or 40 people.
30, 40 people, but those are
For
some
like
powerful people.
6 months until they talked it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or realize, oh, you know what? That's not that big of a deal.
Misunderstandings all over the place. It'll be great.
Or, you know, when the Silk comic series started taking off and selling really well.
She's
And
in
the,
stuff. She's in stuff, Tyler.
I'm not knocking it. I don't know anything about it, but I'm not knocking it.
All right, guys, did we do it? Did we wrap
we
up
done?
this discussion of Original Sin?
I think we wrung out everything we could from it.
There is so much going on that says so little. Yet we talked about it for about an hour, which is pretty good.
It is wild that we got to the end of the discussion. I was like, oh yeah, I feel good about that. Then we took another 15 minutes to be like, but what was happening? though?
Wait.
We're not even going to discuss the fact that at one point one of the eyeballs chokes out Orb. Like, we're not even
Oh,
going
it
to touch
does,
on
doesn't
that.
it? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it does. As it's like bonding with him or something. I don't even know. Guys, if people for some reason liked this comic and they want to read better comics, what should they read?
Well, I touched base on it earlier. Read the Nova. Oh, hold on. Somebody else go. I got to look up who wrote it. Dang
Sure.
it.
I think that's a Jeff Loeb bit, although that
That
Nova
sounds
has been
right.
written by a bunch of people at this point.
Is it really Jeff Loeb?
I think it's Jeff Loeb and McGinnis actually on that book to
Oh, is it?
start.
2012 that one came out?
Oh, you probably have a better idea than I do, honestly.
I mean, Young Nova is giving me Peter Parker vibes.
I mean, I think that's kind of the thing. Is like it was kind of an era where they were doing that. Like new Miss Marvel's around that time. Miles comes into the mainstream Marvel universe shortly after that. I might be squishing some things together, but in the same way, there's a lot of like replacement heroes that Tyler was talking about. There's also a decent amount of like new teen heroes at the same time.
Yeah. By Duggan and McGinnis.
Okay.
No, Duggan and Cheaps, and then McGinnis, and then there's a whole bunch of them after that.
Yeah, he's been in multiple series at this point. I know the original one was Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness, and that looked like it did come out in 2013.
I got 2013. Yeah, I got 2013 on my.
Okay. But I think Jerry Duggan being on that later does sound correct also. So
All right. Well, so Pat can edit all that out, and I can say this. You should read Nova by Duggan, and came out 2013. Read that one. It's good. Or you can keep all that in because it was fun.
The minutia of these like event discussions is kind of the best part, honestly. Of like, remember that time when Marvel was like, what if we replaced Nick Fury with his long lost Black Swan?
Bad call.
Remember that? That was something.
That was a thing. I'm trying to think of any other comics that you should read, but I'm kind of out of the loop these days. So I'm going to suggest a show that you should watch.
Shoot up.
Which is the Hawkeye series. I know people aren't the biggest fans of Jeremy Renner or whatever, but it's very well done. And if you haven't watched it, sit down and watch it. Damn it.
You can also...
For watching it, you should listen to our podcast about...
Read the comics that the show is based on. Yeah. Listen to our podcast about value.
Tyler's first comic.
Better Plan. And then watch that. Yeah. Yeah, the first one I was ever on was the Hawkeye one. That's right. But so there's my suggestions. Nova, circa 2013. And watch the Hawkeye show. It's very good.
Nice.
So I will go next because I know I'm going to stay in the Marvel wheelhouse. And I think, Pat, you're going to go outside it.
How dare you? Yes, I will.
I think. So... my thought on this was like, okay, it's a Marvel event. It's not a very good Marvel event. What's the best Marvel event I could recommend to someone? And I settled on World War Hulk because it's great. It's 5 issues, so it's really self-contained. Wow. Yeah, and like it moves really quickly, but it's also like a lot of this to me is that there wasn't a great story. There weren't great character arcs. They're kind of where with Nick Fury and Uatu, but like a lot of the characters just show up and nothing really happens and you don't really understand why they're there or what their motivation is.
Yep.
In the 5 issues of World War Hulk, Hulk has a great arc. Tony has a great arc because this is after, as Tyler referenced, like the Illuminati blasted the Hulk into space.
Yep.
He was fighting as a gladiator on a gladiator world. He gets pissed off at the Illuminati and comes back to Earth and wants to mess them up. Like that's all you need to know before you go into the
plot.
Book.
That's the plot.
And so it's 5 issues. It's really tight. It's really well written. There are lots of good smash 'em ups. Like it's everything you want out of a Hulk comic, but it also has really good character beats. It's by John Romita Jr. and he has a good inker, I believe, in that one. So the art is good.
The tie-ins were good too, by the way. So if you're going to read it, find some of the tie-ins.
You don't have to read the tie-ins.
You don't.
Like it's not like this one where they say like, "Oh, secrets," and they don't even show them. Like all you have to read is the 5 issues of World War Hulk, and it's a satisfying story, and you're kind of intrigued about what's going to happen next. Don't read what happens next. It's not good.
but the lead up to it is pretty great. Yeah. I will say though, like if you can, like the tie-ins are great because I read some of the tie-ins with it, and it just adds more and more to the World War Hulk part that you're just like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it does a really good job actually of doing the thing events should do, where the tie-ins add to the story but are not. You don't feel like you're missing pieces of the story if you don't read them. Yeah,
you don't need to watch the Ghost Rider, or you don't need to read the Ghost Rider Hulk fight to make World War Hulk make any more sense. Is it fun to do? Is it really cool? Is it 2 issues of Ghost Rider comics that everyone should probably own? In my opinion, yes. But yeah, it just is fun comic books at that point.
So yeah, if you liked this as a Marvel event, but you wish it was a better Marvel event, read World War Hulk.
Can I quick add a suggestion that I just remembered that I wanted to shout out while I was here?
Absolutely, you can.
I got this for free from Kindle, and I was thoroughly entertained by it. The Kelly Sue DeConnick Captain Marvel that came out in 2014. That was very entertaining. The first 6 I got as a trade for free,
Nice.
and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So read that too. That's fun.
Very cool.
All right, Pat, what is your recommendation?
Yeah, mine is similar to yours, except instead of Marvel events, it's whodunits, murder mysteries. And I think this is probably the best comic book murder mystery. I'm going to say it. I'm going to draw that line right there in the sand.
Ooh, all right.
Put it in the notes. Another thing we're making
Right here,
now.
right here.
Yeah,
And
this
reading a comic book about the Watcher feels only fitting that I should suggest reading The Watchmen.
Oh boy.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
That's right. The original Watchmen by Alan Moore. I really enjoy that series. The end gets a little trippy, and I would say the movie does a better ending than the comic book. That might be a little contentious, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. But up until that point, it's really great. Keeps you guessing. I don't know how the new Watchmen series is because I haven't read any of that, but
We don't talk about that.
it wasn't good, so don't do it. Old one, original one, read that.
Yeah, also has very interesting moral questions in it.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
I
think
mean-
there is a good character in that book, which makes it really fun.
Yeah, you always want to
Not
cheer
where
for
I thought you were
questionable
gonna go
ones.
with that, Pat. I'm very happy with it though.
What do you think I was going to say?
I didn't know what you were gonna say.
But of course, a Watcher book needs the Watchmen, because who watches you should watch the Watchmen. Read it.
Watto did, but now he's dead. And he
Right.
didn't really do anything about it either. So
Also, the HBO series is decent.
that's one I still have to check out actually. Don't read any of the Watchmen sequel or prequel or whatever comics. Just
There you
don't
Just
don't.
don't do it. Don't do it.
Just OG, huh?
Yep.
All right. On that note, I think that is going to do it for this month's discussion of Original Sin. As always, if you want to get in touch with Pat or myself, you can find us on Twitter as @WattPodcast. You can also email us at waitingonthetrade@gmail.com, all one word, and read more comics-related goodness at mattreadscomics.com. Tyler, please tell our listeners where they can find you online in case we fail to invite you back for another year.
Oh, geez. Hopefully not.
No, we definitely will get to it sooner. I've got the lineups ironed out at this point.
All right. Had a little rebranding on the Twitch channel. Where it's now twitch.tv/TrueKingT. Same old crap streaming and even more questionable great gaming, but that's where you can find me.
Sweet. Well, Tyler, thank you for coming on again to discuss this comic with us. I honestly have fun discussing comics that are not always good, so this was a treat for me, and I think our listeners will enjoy it as well.
Don't worry, I can find more bad ones. Just give me time.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate being on, guys. Always.